Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. This is Matt with ESC United, your favorite Eurovision channel. Welcome back to our post discussion of the Eurovision Song Contest 2023. And of course, our first discussion on what will happen next year. There is so much to talk about, and I think we should jump right into it. First things first, some house cleaning here. My apologies for the very less than ideal setup here for the live stream. My webcam, if you watched my last video that just posted earlier, got lost in the shuffle on my way to from Liverpool to the United States. Therefore, I only can use my internal camera right now, and I have to put some money into my 2024 budget now as well on top of it. So hopefully, that'll change with my next video. But everything else is basically the same. I just arrived actually in the United States less than about 48 hours ago, actually, because I had to spend a few days in New York City, and now I'm finally back home. And it is nice to be back home, even though I really miss the fun and excitement that is Eurovision. But this is not the first time I'm doing this, so I'm kind of used to this whole thing. And at least we get to talk about the cool stuff here. Now they had a week to digest and take it all in and figure out and decide what was important to us. Have we calmed down? Are we still excited? And then, of course, the first discussion of 2024. And as always, as I'm going through this, I will ask you questions in the chat at ESC United. Make sure you post it so I can see that they are directed towards me. As always, just another big shout out to everyone who really supported us throughout the year and years here on ESC United, whether it's through donation, through PayPal, Super Chat, or whatever it may be. But also those who share our links, like the videos, comment on them to keep us alive in the algorithm. And I want to give some shout out. We got a big donation from Raisa from Finland. I just want to read the message we got on PayPal. Thanks, Matt, and the team for amazing coverage. A special thanks to Gabe for his loud and unwavering support of our national carrier. I really love Gabe. He's not here today, of course. Passion and, of course, the graphs. Lots of love to all of you. Thank you again for supporting us. It is always very much appreciated. So I think what we're going to do here right now first is, now that we had a little bit of time to think it over and what has happened over the last week and see what updates we've had already about 24. So let's jump right into it. Sweden won, in case you didn't know. I know, big spoiler alert here. I know there was, oh gosh, I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, were on social media as it was happening. It was insane. There were a lot of opinions and a lot of thoughts out there. I was in the press center, and as soon as the show was over, I ran into some random corner to do some live streaming, because no live streaming allowed in the press center anymore, at least in 23. So that is certainly that was my evening at that point. But yeah, so we all know Sweden won the jury vote by a landslide, and then Finland won the televote by a landslide. But when you combine the two results, because Sweden, Lorene's Tattoo won the jury vote by such a large margin, basically twice as much as the second place, there was just no way for Finland to actually catch Lorene at that point. Therefore, the win is in. And of course, as you can imagine, since the overall clear fan favorite, Karya Cha Cha Cha, did not win, people weren't happy. And they made that known online or wherever. And it sparked certainly a lot of discussions. But we can talk this through here as well. But let's just say, first of all, I mean, this is all subjective, but once again, this is not the first time that the second placer in the televote has won Eurovision, especially since we have had the new system set up. In 2015, actually, the third placer won, right? Which was ironically Sweden as well. But in 2016, it was Ukraine. In 2019, it was the Netherlands. So this is not a new concept of the second placer winning. It just seems that since we've had such a dramatic difference between first and second place, and in the past, like in 2019 and 2016, the jury winner didn't win either, so it maybe felt a little less stingy, at that point. But here, since the juries completely overruled anything that the televoters could have done to save their favorites, maybe it hurts a little more. At the same time, she still came second with a fantastic result of 245, 35. Gosh, my brain. So it is still a fantastic result, and I don't think we should take it. I don't think. I know this is just kind of how it works. Sweden knows exactly what to deliver, how to cater to the juries, first of all. And in this case, the televoters as well, because again, second place, right? But I understand. I hear you. I hear you. It hurts because it was, I mean, I remember the last time there was so much excitement and hype around the song as we saw with Cha Cha Cha. At the same time, it's gonna hurt for a little while for a lot of fans. I understand that. At the same time, as I tweeted that first thing, don't hate the player, hate the game. So should we change some of the rules, some of the what's around there? So yeah, let's think about it. Uh, that is a very interesting. Lorraine was as close to winning as Televote as Knox was in 2005, 133-point gap. Knox came in 12th. I know, right? It is such a dramatic difference. And I know what people are saying. Sweden didn't get any single 12-pointer in the Televote and yet still wins it overall. And we can talk about this until the cows come home. And that's one of the issues. And we're going to go into that in just a moment. Should we change the juries? What needs to be changed, if at all? And keep in mind, it's not just Finland and Sweden. There are a bunch of other countries that actually had fortunate or less fortunate results. Looking at you, Germany. So we got to go through all of that as well. So first of all, in case you didn't pay attention, because we finally have the jury. They played a smaller role this year in the contest, but they still mattered, especially in the finals, because there's a huge impact. The EBU revealed yesterday the names of the juries of this year's contest, and as you all know, they only voted in the finals, not the semis. And just like they did in 21 and 22, the list of jury members were published by the EBU on the Eurovision website after the final took place. In the past, before COVID, basically, the names of juries were usually revealed before the contest in order to provide all transparency and all that. But that turned out to be a problem, according to the EBU, with the names of the jurors being public. And therefore, potential bribing could occur, although then the issue from last year doesn't really answer that, but we'll go for that as well. Now, the EBU decided, as said, to names can only be revealed after the contest has concluded. Otherwise, it would actually lead to automatic disqualification. And cases that involve disqualification, removal of the jury members of bribing has taken place in the past. And we all know what happened in 2022 when not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but six national juries being completely nullified after the EBU found the results quite suspicious. Anyway, so once again, they had the juries announced after the fact. There are a bunch of names that you will be familiar with, a bunch of them you are not familiar with, but some of the ones I want to point out is Aminata from 2015, Latvia. She was in the Brook from Ireland. That's rich. She finally had a say here as well. Enida Tarifa from Albania, 2016. Sofo from Georgia, 2007. And Anri Yokatse, I'm a Joka, 2012. Aliona Moon, Moldova, 2013. As well as Senek from Belgium, 2018, and Alex Collier from Hooverphonic, who was part of the Hooverphonic team in 21. They were all on the jury for their country, and then there were a bunch of other acts. One thing, though, in case you didn't pay attention, a list of jurors for both Ireland and Latvia only included 4 members each. So we can suspect that one of the members of these 2 jury groups might have been suspended for whatever reason. What that reason is, though, that is unknown. And usually a replacement member is brought in to replace that jury member, but that was not the case this year. So there was no even field there. It is unknown whether an explanation will be eventually given or not from the EBU or one of the 2 broadcasters, which is RTE from Ireland and Latvia LTV. So there is certainly a lot of speculation there as well, because now 4 members only had all the power over the results in those countries, which, of course, that's a lot. So that is one of the things that I have noticed. Let's see here. Theodore B. says on. The biggest reform should be some sort of system where everyone could vote for free. Clearly, having to pay skews the televote to superfans and not the balanced distribution. So that is certainly a good point. But at the same time, would that encourage more diaspora voting? Because then you can vote for free and can vote for the country of your origin or your heritage. And that was one of the issues that we've had in the televote era. Granted, we don't know. It's all just speculation. So maybe that's worth an effort. I never understood why they would pay, you would have to pay to vote if you're already paying your tax money towards this event. And then on top of it, you have to pay to make your voice heard. Again, this is coming from an American perspective where it's like, no taxes, so I'm not that dramatic, but it seems a little weird since there is already sponsorship and all of that stuff. It should not be put on the viewers into the viewers' pockets to pay for this when again your taxpayer money goes towards that already. But that's another story for another time. Now, one thing I've noticed with the juries as well, I mean, Sweden was fairly agreed upon because landslide winner with the juries. Second with the televoters. The rest of the top 10 in particular, there was a lot of discrepancy. If I looked at it correctly, only the juries and televoters only agreed on 4 songs in the top 10, which is Sweden, as I just mentioned. Finland came fourth with the juries and first with the televoters. Israel was in there with both groups, right? Third with the juries and then fifth with the televoters. Or was it sixth? And then Italy, of course, as well. All the other ones, if I'm not mistaken, they actually have lots of discrepancies there. And it seems that more of the jury's top 10 made it into the run because it seems like the televoters really came together behind like 2 or 3 songs and really put all of their points behind it when you had someone like Albania coming in 10th with what 56 points or so in the televote and then overall doesn't even make the top 20 in the ranking just because of the point distribution, and that to me is insanity. I'm not saying they'd have to make top 10 because they were only in 10th place with the televoters, but not even making top 20, that is pretty dramatic if you ask me, and that's just one example, of course. Um, Interesting point. France was placed between 11th and 15th. Almost every country, a better recap and running order, and it would have been top 10. Alicia, that is a very, very good point, and that is something I talked about. I know you've been on my live stream, so you know I've been very vocal about this. That there is an issue with the producer-determined running order because it's the second year in a row that France got also kind of pushed aside for the other favorites, and it felt a little unfair. But yeah, so that was certainly, and one of the things that also stood out to me, of course, that I think it was the head of delegation, Norway, also said that the juries need reforming. Now, this is, of course, a can full of worms, and should I open it? Let's do it. I agree. And here's the thing, this is coming from a big proponent of the juries. I do think the juries brought so much value to the contest in the late 2000s and really helped the contest to become a little bit more, I don't know if sophisticated is the right word, but relevant and respected. And I don't want to go back to the days where the diaspora is even more powerful and the silly songs all just, rule the contest and then its reputation goes down. And then we don't want to go back to that. At the same time, two things can be true at the same time. Should a jury of just a few people have so much say that they can overrule the will of millions of people, literally? And what can be done? It's very easy to say just scrap the juries and move on. No, it is obviously a whole lot more complicated than that. And I would love to hear your thoughts as well here in the chat, as always, at ESC United. And then we'll talk about the running order as well before we move on to 24. Should Big Five have to go for the semifinals? Is one question. Yes, they should, but they won't. Real quick, it's money and viewers. If they don't qualify, I mean, Germany and UK and potentially, and Spain for sure wouldn't have made it, right? Because they all were in the bottom 3 of the televote. Imagine the numbers of people not watching in those countries. That's a huge loss. And plus, these countries when we had 100% televote. But by putting these very static rules in place for the juries about voice and da 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 da, da, I don't know if we advance in the contest, if we move forward. And by that, I mean they often drown ethnic bops or anything that is a little bit more or less out of the mainstream world. And that is concerning to me. I don't think we move on with the scene, with the evolving evolution of music and sound, if we always have the same rules in place for the juries, and then not, and then they just stick to that, and then we're in a status quo kind of situation, and that is what bothers me the most. I don't know if the rules truly need to be in place for the juries and this strict to have like, yeah, the voice, the that package. Like, no, I think just let them vote, but that helps with the, the silly vote or whatever. So, do we need professional juries? Can it just be regular people? Oh, did the stream froze? Somebody said. Okay, I have no idea where I got stuck. I don't know what the last thing you heard, but what I'm saying is that basically, I don't know in a nutshell if the actual what you call it, juries need to be professional. What is the value of that? Because that is a status quo, a standstill, because they always vote for similar music and will not go for daring choices. Put cha 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 aside, talk about ethnic bobs or any of that sort. That is all very important. So I think there needs to be some soul searching within the ranks of the EBU. Whether or not they're going to do that, I don't know. But if you don't do something soon, and something what happened this year will happen like a year or 2 or 3 years in a row, that will also hurt the contest a lot. And we don't want that. We don't want to lose a reputation where it's like it's just the juries decide. Should the juries have so much impact that they can just give so many points to one country that is virtually impossible to catch up for the second placer? So those are the things I think they need to think about. Well, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well in the chat at ESC United. But yeah, that is certainly where I fall. Have they never studied the composition of the juries and the televote? It seems unfairly skewed towards a younger audience. Um, Towards a younger audience, I thought there was always the complaint that the juries are too old and that they're out of touch with the younger audience. It really depends on the country. I'd have to look at in the past, they provided us the age and the gender and all of that stuff. They kind of walked away from that a little bit. But I do think there needs to be a healthy representation of age range. We don't want to just have a younger audience. We don't just want an older audience. We want to have a broad range of ages and whatever. But more than anything, I do think we need a wider range than just music professionals as well. I think we also are going past that point where you have to have some sort of knowledge. Just because you represented a country at Eurovision in the past does not make you immediately a music expert or you're some kind of DJ in a country. Do you know what I mean? So I think those are some of the things they should take into consideration. Gilad is saying, my thoughts are with the juries is a bigger jury will have criteria of diversity, age, gender, profession, because now you can whatever the broadcaster wants. Exactly. I need a big range. Don't just focus on just the music industry. It doesn't mean you have to just pick 3 random people off the street, but there needs to be more than just music industry. And that is, I think, would help a lot with like this perceived idea that they only look for certain styles. And that's where I'm at, of course. Um, Diversification, you see, in genres is very necessary. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as I said before, I mean, Finnegan still fourth in the juries isn't that bad, right? But certainly just the gap was just so ridiculous that it was just impassable. But even like the likes of like, let's say, Moldova or Croatia, you can make case that Croatia should be this low in the televote and all that stuff, in the jury vote, I mean. But it always seems that the ethnic songs often are penalized to such a dramatic point where there is no coming back. And how high was Moldova in the televote? Ninth place, I think. So yeah. And then they came up what bottom five with the juries. I don't think that is it's a bottom five result. in my opinion. Maybe you know where can I find the televote rankings of semifinals? It's on the website Eurovision.tv, and also EurovisionWorld.com has a very nice breakout of the results. So that's probably easier to go to. So go to EurovisionWorld.com and go to their scores and whatever it's called, and they'll give you a really nice breakout of that, the points and the distribution. I think they should have bigger juries, much bigger juries, like 10 to 12, each given their 50% of power. And it's said, but do we just increase it with the same criteria? What will be the difference be there? Then we're just going to have 10 or 12 people or 15 people with the same kind of background voting in a similar fashion. I think there needs to be a broader approach to the juries. That is where I'm coming from. But I'm hoping there will be some discussions within the ranks of the EBU, but I'm not holding my breath either. Um, let's see here. JP is saying perhaps a hybrid jury, 50% professionals, 50% demoscopic, and 10 people on each jury. That is a great idea. And that is kind of, I said, 25% should come from the jury, 25 from the demoscopic, but they can just have a combined 50% and represent that. I think that would be a great idea. I do want to have input from music experts, but not at the expense of everything that is going on within, the real world, for the lack of a better word, because I think it may become an issue further down the line if this continues to happen. So that is just one thing we can talk about there. Feel free to ask questions at ESC United as well, but I do believe there needs to be some reform within the juries. And yeah, we'll go from there. Finland's fourth place with the juries was great, but the issue and why people are upset is the huge point lead Sweden got from the juries. Many think it was too much power for 185 jury members. Yes, it is. That is the issue. Should the jury be able to give such a landslide win to a country, and then completely overrule the televoters? Because the issue with televoters, for the most part, there are exceptions, but oftentimes, and this year is another example, they all coalesce around one or like a few songs, like less than a handful of songs, and most of the points going towards those. And then the rest of the songs get very few, as pointed out. Albania, 56 points, I think, still coming in 10th place, but it did not matter because the juries had way more, power with their ranking. Therefore, a lot of the songs went really down. Again, Albania coming 10th and still only coming, 21st or 22nd overall. Poland, you can make the same case, even though I know a lot of people are very upset with that song anyways, but it did really well in the televote. And it still flopped so dramatically in the jury vote. So should they have so much power? And maybe even the televote needs some adjusting. But how? Because at the televote, all you do is vote for your favorites. I know some of you fans out there, you give like 5 to this song and 3 to that one. I get all of that. But the vast majority of normies, they will just vote for their favorite and not for the third favorite because, it's just not how it works. We can't ignore Spain, Czechia, Australia, Estonia, Austria being saved by the juries. Exactly. I mean, Spain was a big surprise to me anyway that it flopped so hard with the televoters. I mean, was Spain saved? They came 16th or 17th or something like that, so it wasn't like that great of a result. And I think it is somewhat reasonable. But Czechia, Australia, Estonia, Austria, and even Belgium to a certain extent, they were saved by the juries a lot, and sometimes they're supposed to save them, especially songs like Austria, who did so well in the semis, then completely flopped in the finals because of the running order. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I just reiterate what I said about the point distribution. Oftentimes, the juries have often more power because it's a little bit more balanced. I mean, they gave all the high scores to Sweden, and then everyone else has to work for the rest. But it was still more level than the televoters. So that is one thing. There's a lot to take into consideration, and I understand they can't just change everything next year, but I do think this is a good opportunity to reevaluate some of the things that are going on. Here we go. Give me 1 second. I see a lot of questions. I'm trying to bring some up. There's so many good questions. Keep asking them. Forgive me if I don't get to all of them. We should have an online vote like in junior where you have vote for 3 songs. That would solve a lot of diaspora voting, as they still have to vote for 2 other songs. A lot of people we talked about that, but at the same time, in junior, you can vote for your own country, and that may be an issue as well. So if you had a vote like that, I still would want, you cannot vote for your own country kind of situation. In junior, you don't have that. In addition, a lot of people, especially boomers, they will not do that online thing. They'll just like to pick up a phone and call as, they watch the recap. And some other people are more into that. So I don't know how you can just get rid of the televote completely in this day and age. I mean, I don't want to say Melody Festival again. Let's not, but I have to. I mean, Melody Festival does that app voting, and once at a vote, the televote is only represented like what 1/8 of the results or 1/7. I don't know exactly how many age groups they have. So they doing something like that. I don't know if we need to bring something like that because I don't necessarily agree with that, but it's a tough one. It's a toughie. Yeah, so we'll see. So keep your. I just want to jump also next topics, and at the very end we can also talk about whatever you want to talk about. Because now that we have a winner, we all know we're going back to Sweden. This is would be my, if I'm going next year, it would be my third time because I was in Malmö and I was in Stockholm. So what do we know about the 2024 contest yet? It's been a week. So there is little we know, but let me count: 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think 9 different arenas in 8 different cities have already expressed interest in bidding. The bidding process has not begun yet. So this is just like initial interest. And there are a lot of, like disqualifications in terms of like their criteria that they bring to the table. So let's not jump into that and thinking they're actually submitting their bid, but they just said we would like to do that. Of course, the big one is Stockholm. The Friends Arena or the Tele2 Arena have already mentioned that a little bit, but there's some opposition as well. We just went to, first of all, to Stockholm just a few years ago, the last time they hosted. So a lot of people saying we shouldn't go back there. Gothenburg would be an obvious choice because they tend to take like these, 3-city tour. But Gothenburg, the arena, Scandinavium, that one was just approved for demolition. So the plan is to demolish that thing and build it from ground up, I guess, to rebuild it. If that's the case, they can't go there either. I don't know if they would go back to Malmö. That would be also kind of boring. May as well go back to Stockholm. But there are a bunch of smaller cities that I don't always know how to pronounce. Eskil, Eskilstuna, Jönköping, and Partille, Örnsköldsvik. Some places that are probably very hard to get to. I could see Sweden going with something a little bit less predictable on this one. Wouldn't that be kind of crazy? But yeah, so there's going to be a lot of talk about it. The Friends Arena obviously would be a preferred venue. Some of the soccer teams, football teams, excuse me, I talk like an American, are against it, but we don't know even they're going to be available at that point in time. So this is all early and all just up to speculation. The Friends Arena would be big, and you would get a lot of people in there, and there will probably be a good amount of interest. But we have to wait and see where it's going to go. I think that to me personally, Stockholm would be always the best option because it's a bigger city. You need a bigger city. I remember Malmo. It was fine, but Stockholm was a much better option, but it's also very expensive. But then I was in Liverpool, so. Now, in terms of who will take part, we're hoping we're going to get more than we had this year because 37 is as low as we want to go, right? Certainly, I think it's the lowest, tied with 2014 since the introduction of the 2 semis. So we certainly do not want to go lower than that. 12 countries have already confirmed their intention to participate. The window has not opened yet to apply, but they said we will back, and keep in mind that number will go up tremendously. But just official statements have been made by Cyprus, Denmark, Finland, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Malta, Netherlands, Norway, Spain, and of course the host Sweden. And then Luxembourg, as we all know, is returning to the contest, and that is super exciting. If everyone from last year returns, we're already up one country up to 38. Now, once again, most countries will return as well. There's no reason to believe the UK would withdraw, or you know what I mean. But we're just waiting for official confirmations. In terms of rumors, Croatia is planning to do the Dora again. They signed up for multiple years, and clearly it was somewhat successful this year. You know, with LED 3, left side of the scoreboard, is already a good accomplishment for them. Greece, actually, and that's unofficially, ERT is now considering going back to a national final from an internal selection, but they're looking into different formats thereof. Same for Cyprus. They actually want to go to a actual national final, which would be the first time since 2015. And I'm all about national finals, so by all means, that would be fantastic. Now, North Macedonia, as we all knew, withdrew for the first time, you know, since they took part, unless there was something they were forced to sit out because of the relegation thing. But this was an actual withdrawal due to financial constraints because this Eurovision was so expensive. But they stated they would return in 24 if the situation stabilized. They are in discussions about the 24 participation, and they are taking part in junior later this year, but they took part last year as well. And it's obviously a whole lot cheaper than the actual big Eurovision. And I'm bringing that up right now here. Some information just to give you an idea. Now, this varies by country, but let me find it. How much money it is for a smaller country broadcaster you have to spend. Romania actually was very transparent in how much they spent on Eurovision. A total of 380,000 euros was spent on their participation. Breaking it out, 180,000 euros just for the participation fee. That's a lot of money for smaller broadcasters. And that's only half, right? And then everything else piles up on top of it. The staging and all the associated costs with the performance in Liverpool, another 80,000 euros. That's a lot of money. And Romania opted for a national final that cost them 63,000 euros. Then just the broadcasting costs in Romania for the show is 25,000 euros. And then just paying for the accommodation for everyone is 23,500 euros. And then all the transport and other costs, 11,000. So that is a lot of money for a smaller broadcaster. So countries like Bulgaria, North Macedonia, Montenegro, they cannot always afford all of that. But yeah, then we can talk about, well, San Marino can. But there are, you know, it's a different situation with them, how they're fine and stuff. But yeah, I just want to give you that breakout, you know, for that. So then there is, so as I said, Cyprus, they will have a national final called Fame Story. First national final in 9 years. How this is going to look like and how it's going to work, I don't know. We have to wait for that as time progresses. Australia, as you all know, Australia is an associate member of the EBU, not a full member. Therefore, they need to be invited by the EBU every year in order to take part. A few years ago, they got, like, was it a 4-year invitation, meaning they're going to be around for 4 years at least without having to be invited every single year. That invitation expired this year, 23. So in order to take part next year, they either have to continue with the annual invitations or give them another long invitation, like a 4 or 5-year one. A lot of fans are concerned that this will be the last year we'll see Australia. I'll eat my glass if they're not going to be back next year. Don't worry about it. Australia will be back. Who else? So Slovakia actually didn't say much about their intention of taking part in 2024, but they made a statement on why they have been away from the contest. And from the PR department of RTVS's broadcaster, Philip Puchovsky said Eurovision is a singing competition of public broadcasters, and in the past, RTVS was the official broadcaster of the event and at the same time the organizer of the national competition round. RTVS carefully approaches the creation of the broadcasting structure of its television and radio circuits, and in the past period decided not to include this international competition in its broadcasting based on the evaluation of several input factors, primarily the fund spent and viewership. The participation of Slovak artists is also associated with high financial costs, for which RTVS does not have the resources. So it's basically what it says. It's a matter of money and interest. And so we don't know if that means they're reevaluating this at any point in time. But right now, Eurovision is not a thing in Slovakia, and I don't know if we should expect them back anytime soon. It would be a pleasant surprise, but I am not holding my breath. I do not anticipate the participation fees to go down at all. Um, Actually, 23 was the most watched live ESC in Australia in years. They are coming back. Well, Alicia, that is true. I mean, I believe, but it's not up to Australia. It's up to the EBU to invite them. They cannot just say, we're back. They need to be told by the EBU, you are allowed to come back just because of their status. That being said, they will be back. Nobody worry about it. Monica and Dora, both of them have like mumblings that Dora's been trying to come back. There's a big movement, but we don't know if that's going to be enough. Monica initially had money put aside for a 23 participation, but then they were not on the list in the end. With the new broadcast emerging, there's also a lot up in the air. I would not hold my breath. Turkey is another one that we're talking about. We're hoping that with the potential change in leadership and government, this would happen. After the results that we saw a few days ago, it looks less likely that Erdogan will be removed. He had a major lead in the polls, in the yeah, not in the yeah, in the vote. He just missed the 50% mark. So at this point, I already expect Erdogan to be reelected. Maybe they'll surprise me. So I don't expect Turkey to be back until that changes. Russia and Belarus, obviously gone. They will not be back anytime soon for obvious reasons. I mean, Belarus was even before the war started, but you get my point. Um, yeah, those are the ones that I can think of. There were talks about some of the other smaller ones, but these are the ones that really stood out to me. Do you also feel Luxembourg might flop? Should they get finale passed directly? So, no to the second part. We're glad to have them back, Alicia, but they should not just get a free pass. Just we don't want to hurt their feelings. We want them back. We want them to compete as everybody else, but they're not going to get special treatment. If they really truly would withdraw after one bad result, then it wasn't meant to be. Um, they need to go through it like everybody else. Again, Big Five, different story. I would love to see them in the semis, but we all know why that's not going to happen. But yeah, and am I worried that they're going to flop and leave? Yeah, but I have the same fear about Czech Republic. Which they were still called Czech Republic in 2015 when they finally returned. Granted, it wasn't a 30-year absence. That after the first, when they didn't qualify, that they would just give up again. But thankfully, they did not. I'm hoping it could turn into more of a Monaco situation where they took part from 2004 to 2006, 3 non-qualifications, and then drew. And I could see that happening. But yeah, if they withdraw after one non-qualification, then whoop-de-doo. Then it wasn't meant to be. Should they change the public vote so it's not split by points by each country instead of just being a general public vote from everyone? Kind of what they're doing in junior. But then again, then you can vote for your own country, and that would be an issue. So I don't think I want that. I know what you're saying. I'm going to say something controversial. Let me drink first. Maybe our point system is outdated. Our precious point system. I know. Hear me out. We have 26 songs in the finals, and you only get to vote for 10 of them. And as somebody pointed out, France was almost always in the top 15 of the televote, right? But not enough to squeeze into it. Should there be some kind of more ranking that they all get more points rather than just being, just missing out every time? That's the thinking, right? Because, we have 10 songs getting points, 16 not. Maybe there needs to be something happening. Because, again, you only vote for your favorite. You don't rank them. And it seems a little bit counterproductive. But again, that is a very daring and suggestion, and I wouldn't even know what kind of system should be used. But people would go crazy if you completely change the 12, 10, 8-pointers. But I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe there is another way to do that. Andy is saying, should the top 15 be awarded points from now on instead of only the top 10 when it comes to the final? Yes, I'm thinking kind of down those lines. The question is, we would have to change our point system. And would people be okay with that? It's been in place for almost 50 years now. Most of us only know this system. The last time this non 12-10 pointer system was used was in 1974, the year ABBA won, ironically. So maybe this would be the one. Oh my God, y'all. Wouldn't that be the coolest thing? ABBA was the last time they used the old system. Maybe at their 50-year anniversary, they could then start a new era of points. Oh God. Could you imagine? Oh gosh, I think people would go nuts. Tradition, just for the sake of tradition, is never good. I do like that approach, Andy, and I do feel I agree with that. At the same time, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't have a solution. I just feel as maybe this is just something to reevaluate. And 50 years later, maybe it is time to do that. But yeah, it's just something, food for thought. And I'm always about, not just saying this sucks, get rid of the juries is not a solution. So maybe I'm trying to put ideas forward. Not all of them may work, but we should try. We should try. What else is to talk about 2024? I don't think I mean, besides the arena discussions and the few countries that have announced their intent to join, I don't think a whole lot else is going on in the 2024 world. So, yep. Now we can just talk a little bit about what happened here. People also asking, by the way, this will be my last live stream for the season. You are incorrect. I understand that as time progresses now, there's less and less to talk about, but people, I know PED sucks post Eurovision depression, in case you know what that means. So I will do my part and do videos and live stream throughout the year, even when it's slower and we discuss things. But I cannot do that without you. If nobody shows up, why would I do it, right? So we'll give this a shot, and if you stick around, I will stick around. So let's just enjoy Eurovision, and as Junior comes up, we can talk about that as well. I know it's not the same as Eurovision, the adult version, but there are other things. Unfortunately, all of the spin-offs keep flopping or don't materialize. American Song Contest gone, the Asia one scrapped, Canada indefinitely postponed, so it just keeps bam, nothing else is happening. And now the choir thing, which I never talk about anyways, got canceled as well. So yeah, it's hard to come up with, Junior is the only spin-off that kind of still works, and even that one was looking quite eh, so we'll see. We are treating our PED by watching old contests. Last night we watched 2008. It won the lucky dip. 2008. Oh, that was the year why it's the reason why we have juries now. I mean, not just that year, but that one was the final straw that broke the camel's back. So yeah, that was an interesting year for sure. The first year we had semis as well. It would be nice to invite the USA. And then Matt died. It's that is a very strong say. Look, I'm actually not in favor of the US joining. I do know that Jan Ola Sant, when he was still supervisor, made a similar comment about if the American Song Contest doesn't work out, we could consider that, so we'll see. Ultimately, clearly the show is moving towards more of an entertainment show than rather than a contest. So money needs to come in. The US would bring in money. Some other countries could bring a lot of money. At the same time, this would be a huge culture shock for Eurovision. I don't think we're there yet. It would have to be a gradual, very small step towards that. So I don't think this is the right thing to do just because the USA is has a huge music market, the biggest in the world. We have zero connection to the contest culturally or whatever. We don't watch it here. We don't deserve to be in there. There are other countries who deserve it more, and no names. But could there be a world vision kind of thing people are talking about? It would be difficult to put together because of all the time zones. So it couldn't be live. I mean, it could be, but who gets to see it live and who gets to vote? Because a lot of people will be asleep. I know Australia is an exception here, but Australians are tough and they'll get up in the middle of the night and watch it. To cope with PED, I'm just about the demos across Europe that we are waiting to become 2024 songs. I cannot wait. Well, I hope, Jay Stan, you will not hear them before September 1st, because that is the deadline. If you release a song before that time, you no longer become eligible. I know there are some caveats to it. They cannot be broadly put out there, but you rather not have anything out there before that date. But yeah, I look forward to like little bits and pieces, and hopefully we get some news throughout this time period. And yeah, it is just a very, very big question mark right now on what to expect. But I'm here for it. I'm waiting for it, and we'll have to see what are going to change next year. Are we going to get more press access next year in terms of, will it be more than just a week of rehearsals and exposure for the artists? Are we going to stick to this? Because it's not a lot of time for the artists to really promote themselves, but that's all just, not up to me. But it's always good for us to advertise and advocate for it. 12-point system for the juries and 1 to 25 to 26 points for the public. Again, SP, it goes down to this whole jury televoters only vote for their favorites. They don't rank them. Is there any way that we could come up with a solution to do it more for ranking? We talked about the junior thing where you have to vote at least for 3 countries and not just your diaspora or neighbor. So that would be an interesting potential option. But then again, you can only do that online. How could you do it with the televote? You know what I mean? So it would be a major shift. And I don't know if the EBU is even interested in doing that. Because once again, we're shifting more to entertainment rather than a competition. And that is unfortunate. Oopsie boopsie, I clicked. So any questions, by the way, in the chat? We have at ESC United. Let's talk this through. Did you follow the German debate? I would love to hear another ESC fan chip in. I did not follow the German debate, but I would love to hear what the German debate is about. Again, I was gone for from Monday through Friday. I was in New York, so I had very little to no exposure except for the main news. So I tried to stay on top of that, but I didn't go into country specific stuff because we all know Germany flopped, which is still not cool. And I can see why a lot of Germans feel a little deflated right now. I felt like, I don't know at this point, what are we going to do, Matt? What are we going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. Keep trying. Keep trying. Don't let this one bad result discourage you, because it was immensely popular within Germany. And even though it didn't work on the Eurovision stage as we have hoped, don't give up. Just don't give up. Yes. It's, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the other option would have been Icke. You think you would have done much better with that one? I doubt it. I doubt it. So I see that Germans still have such an amazing attitude. I'm very happy to hear that, Alicia, because they should have an amazing attitude. It seems like the Eurovision fan base in particular, they're very supportive of Germany, because most of them say that they did not deserve to come last. And it hurts. I get it. I get it. I'm worried about what UK and Germany will send next year. So Germany, I'm more worried than the UK. UK will send another internal selection and try to do their best. That's my thinking. Germany does this thing. They don't stick to their guns because of one bad year. So I remember Michael Schulte in 2018. What a great success. It was a new national final that they put together, and it worked so well. They got 4th place at Eurovision. Great result. They brought it back the next year and didn't do as well with Sisters, right? And then they got, well, it's not working. Let's get rid of it. And they got rid of it. And like, why would you do that so quickly? One bad result. The year before that, it was great. And so I'm just worried they feel like it didn't work this year. We're going to start over again and do something random. Consistency is the key, and you work on what you have and maybe improve upon it. In this case, I don't think anything could have done. The Germans were heavily behind Lord of the Lost, and unfortunately, it did not work out. So that could change next year. So don't give up. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I say the fans are really nice here, but the boomers and generally the public is so deflating to follow. Yeah, that's what I do in real life. Stay away from the negativity. That's usually my thing, and it does a lot for you on Twitter and even on YouTube. The block button has become my best friend because I can't. People are just too negative, and I don't know. That's not what the song contest should be about. What will Ireland do? They seemed pretty sad too because not qualifying again. Yes. So with Ireland, I'm a bit surprised that they were surprised they didn't qualify. But at the same time, I understand that there is something happening. It feels like after all these years, there's finally some realization going on that this is not working. The late, late show thing, the internal selection, they need to come up. Just like with Finland, they had this one person come in and fix their UMK completely and it became such a success. They need to have that kind of person, but the RTE is just so incapable of finding the right people. And I don't know how hard they are trying. So I don't know. It's really hard, but I feel like something happened. And the same was very interesting for Denmark. This is the longest non-qualification streak for Denmark at Eurovision, right? Not making it to the finals. They didn't learn their lesson. The spokesperson for DMGP basically said, "No, it's not us. It's Europe. They just didn't get the song. The wrong songs were the wrong countries were in our semi. And if the right songs would have been in there, I'm like, so you're saying your song was just not appealing enough to everybody?" It was just a cop out, and I'm worried that Denmark will not learn from their errors right now, and that they'll continue on this streak where they just send pleasant enough songs that just don't leave them impact. So I'm actually more worried about Denmark than Ireland. I feel like Ireland got a little spark there, and feel like we need to change something. Denmark is not, and that is more upsetting to me than anything. Because, man, they should have sent the song that came first in the Televote anyways in the MGP. But that is, water under the bridge. Do you think Georgia will withdraw? I hope not. That's the only country I can see right now that could potentially withdraw after this result. But at the same time, they've always been more experimental anyway, so maybe they don't feel discouraged by it. I hope not. I need Georgia and Latvia to qualify next year. I don't care what song, I'll just vote for them anyways. But yeah, no, I get it. I'm a little bit, it's the only country I'm slightly worried about. UMK is one example of how you can turn your fortunes around. UMK is now one of the strongest NFs of the year for me. Yes, and they've been really strong for like 2 or 3 years. So this is just a beautiful thing to witness, and this could happen to anyone. You just need to get the right people at the right time in charge, and maybe listen to some more of the audience, as well, because they often have a lot of insight that the professionals don't. They don't live and breathe Eurovision all year long. So, but at the same time, there are a lot of egos involved as well, and a lot of money that goes around. So it is, what it is. I'm worried about Romania and Czechia withdrawing because of money. Yes, Connor, that is a very good point. Let me clarify about Georgia. Georgia is the only country I'm worried about withdrawing because of recent results or the lack of it. I'm more worried about more countries withdrawing because of financial reasons. Romania and Czechia are certainly two candidates that pop out there. At the same time, I do know, based on my resources, that Czechia is really, really trying. They were trying to make sure that this current national final will continue. But in order for justify those kind of expenses, they needed to bring home a decent results, which they did with the top 10 results. So I'm hoping that they are locked in for a little bit. Romania is a little bit concerning because we all know 2016 they were forced to withdraw because they could not pay their bill. We need a good result for Romania as well at the contest, but they're struggling as well a little bit. We have a few countries struggling, others just keep continuing and succeeding, and that got to change. And there are multiple things that we can bring up why that is. What do you think should also running order be drawn first, like 26? Austria got robbed because they performed first. Oh, hey, can you, again, another can of worms. I talked about that so much over the last few live streams during the Eurovision week that I feel like I sound like a broken record. I'm a big proponent of eliminating the running order, producer-driven running order. A lot of people are supportive of it because we need to have diversity, blah, 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 yada, yada. It should be considered more than anything a competition, a contest, and by producers deciding who is a worthy competitor, it just doesn't sit right with me, and it hurts so many songs like Austria. And the songs that are always like at the top of the betting odds, they get good running orders. Bless your heart, Finland. I loved you. But getting, the 13th, and Sweden getting always a great running order regardless. And Australia gets as well. So it's just the same darn countries being preferred over, given preference over the less rich ones or the less competitive ones or whatever the reasoning it may be. And in order to prevent that from happening, a random running order is necessary. People are saying, well, the running order doesn't matter. If a song is good, it is going to win regardless. Okay, then why didn't we put Sweden and Finland in slot number 1 and 2? If it doesn't matter, let's see, next year, let's put the top 2 betting odds favorites in 1 and 2. And then we'll see how it goes. Because, it's not going to pan out that way. So I don't mind. So I understand the need or like the desire to making it, not having 6 ballots in the beginning, right? Um, So maybe, as we discussed, rather than having to halves, put them into quarters or group of fives or something like that. So if you're in the first 6 songs, then at least, okay, I got group 1, so I will be between 1 and 6. It's just a luck of the draw. And then within that, the producers get a little bit of say. Then from 6 to 12, they get a little bit say as well. But at least you are falling in that quarter, and it feels a little less punitive because there's a huge difference between going first and going 13th in the first half. And yeah, so that is why I feel very strongly about this. And will it change? Probably not, because the EBU in the past even said we wish we could just do a whole 1 through 26 running order decided by us. And oh man, that would be really upsetting. So hopefully we need to keep speaking up on that. In your opinion, which type of song would Spain send next year after being last in televoting? So I don't have the tweet in front of me right now, but I read that Blanca Paloma basically came forward saying, even though it didn't work out for me, I feel very proud about my song and the tradition. And even though it didn't work, don't give up, Spain. This is exciting news. Enjoy the contest. I'm paraphrasing right now. So that is exactly how it should go. Spain sent something that they were proud of, that they were excited about, and feel good about. And that is the most important thing. Should every national final just only be looked at as vote for the song that you think will do best at Eurovision, rather than vote for the song that you are most excited about? And I will always pick the latter over the former. Send songs that you are excited about, that you love, and you want to see at Eurovision. And hopefully the masses will agree. If they don't, at least you can say, you know what, I still love the song and we'll try again next year. Rather than just overthinking it. Germany has done a lot, like like when they had panels and all that stuff. Well, this song would probably be liked by the televoters and by the juries, because ABC don't do that. Vote for the song, and sometimes it doesn't work out, but oftentimes it does. So that is how I would approach it. And even if it doesn't work out every single time, don't feel discouraged. UK single charts this week: Lorraine number 2, Finland number 6, May number 9, and Alessandra number 10. This is insane. Like, even in the viral charts, global charts, there's so many songs that are actually charting, and it's just beautiful to watch. I mean, it is still crazy that the song in Finnish is so high in the British top 10. How is that even a thing? How? It's just crazy, and I love that happening. I love it, I love it, I love it. Maybe it goes up even more. Um, I mean, Cha 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 just really changed the game in so many ways anyways. I mean, it wasn't just Cha Cha Cha. We had, so many other songs that just really broke that mold in, like, terms of only English. So I'm just really loving that. But yeah, this has been a very successful year for a lot of the songs, and makes Eurovision more relevant and more important. I applaud the rest of the world vote, getting people from all across the globe involved without giving them too much power at the same time. So this was a very clever and in introduction and inclusion, and I'm all for it. See, I'm not just always criticizing things that the EBU put forward. This was a good one. Ireland should do a real national selection with more artists, more songs, diversity, etc. Yes, I do agree with that as well. Um, and a better song quality. Like the Late Late Show thing was just so bad. And unfortunately, though, I mean, at the same time, the televoters seem to pick the songs that they should not be picking. And this is subjective, of course. But when you see the fan favorites almost always getting kicked out in the national final in Ireland, that says a lot. And then the excuses come in like, well, they just sounded better that night. I'm like, voice is just one tiny piece of it, you know? So they need to get better quality with certain songs are just not meant to perform in a small studio for like the Late Late Show. They need to have better options there, much better options. Um, let's see here. How about one call text like equals like no, yeah, that way we get a cumulative score from Europe and Australia. The winning song is the one that gets most calls, text, app votes, no more 0 points. I'd like that idea, but then look at the scores. Those scores would be crazy. We could more looking at like, a ranking kind of thing. I don't know. I have not truly thought it through. All I know is something's got to change. This year is a great year to show a non-Euro fan, unlike 22. I think so too. I thought 21 was a great year to show a non-fan as well. 2020 would have been a great year. I still think 2020 would have been one of the best Eurovision years in recent history, but I do not want to live in the past. I just don't. Portugal had not participated the last 3 times Eurovision was held in Sweden. Oh God, that's right. No, they'll be back. This will be the year they'll be back. Now, Portugal has been doing quite well. I mean, in 2016, when they withdrew, they've had a few bad results. Didn't qualify in 15, in 14, and what happened in 2013? They didn't qualify either, right? Yeah, or 2012. So they had like 4 years of bad results. Right now, they had 3 years of qualifications. Since 2017, they only missed one semi, if I'm not mistaken, right? So it would be weird if they were to withdraw right now. They are on a roll, even though this year wasn't like the most amazing result in the finals. They still qualified, and in my book, it was a fantastic song. But yeah, they're definitely not doing bad, and I expect them to be back actually. Regardless on how you feel about Karja not winning, the fact that the song in Finnish, not even in Indo-European language, having such good result is insanely awesome. That is exactly how I feel. You know, this just shows that the contest has evolved so much from the years where you have to send anything in English as long as it rhymes. Fly high, bye, goodbye, my, why, and actually just stick to what you know. If a song is good, it transcends language. So it's just beautiful to watch. Absolutely. That's what I loved about 21 as well, because 4 of the 5 songs in the top 5 were non-English songs. And I am not a fan of the language rule. Like I would never would want to bring it back. Fire desire. Yes, Dan. That's kind of thing as well. Desire. All these words. It was an amazing final this year. So let's just be grateful that the nonsense of that dull 2020 final was just a blip. Well, 2022 was such a unique year as well because, of the war has just started and we all mostly thought that Ukraine would win it. So it was kind of weird. And this year was weird because, again, the juries and all that stuff. There's always something weird going on. The last time we had where the juries and televoters agreed was in 2017. Let that sink in. That was 6 years ago. Hot take. Okay, Lou, what's your hot take? Albania getting top 10 by televoters shows that Eastern sounds work for televoters and Caucasia should consider. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. Any that kind of sound, ethnic sounds, put Moldova in the same bucket there again this year. They both were in the top 10. That kind of music can and will work. I mean, not will all the time, but it can. And that just shows it. But the problem why we don't get it, because both songs were heavily, heavily penalized by the juries. And that is why going back to, we need to go back to having not just music professionals on those panels, because they just don't give those points songs points. And if I was an artist putting that kind of, like, I'd be like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna get like laughed at out of the room by the juries. No, 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 no. I'm French, and France sends many variety, but the only one I want to see for fun is French rap. Oh, Cassie. So I first of all, I'm not a rap person, yet here I am had Ukraine last year and Finland this year at my top, so when it's done right, it works. So I would love to see some good French rap. It has to work. It can't just be rap. It has to be more universally accessible, but I would love that as well. All I want, France, is to go back to the national final, though, which I loved. I feel as the people in charge were so convinced that Lazara had a winning chance in terms of winning the contest that they just decided, oh, we love her so much. Screw the public. We're going to put that one forward. I wish they would have stuck to their guns and had a national final. Hopefully, they'll bring it back next year because that's so many good songs. Even though it didn't work out in 22, it worked out in 21. But that's what I'm talking about. Don't just always give up because of one bad result. So should Germany send a song in German? Yes. Yes, Katie. This live stream is over. Germany needs to send a song in German. Every big five country sends songs in their native tongue. Italy in Italian, Spain in Spanish, France in French. Well, UK in English, but you get my point. And then here's Germany always singing English. The last time they sang in German was when? 2007. I wanted to see what if you guys can guess. 2007 was the last time when the late Roger Cicero performed in German, and I would love it. But Germans seem to be groomed to a place where, like, you have to sing in English to succeed. And with this current trend of non-English songs succeeding in the televote, I'm like, yes. You think next year would be full of Swedish songs, more produced songs, less native language? Gilad, I love your enthusiasm and excitement and optimism. Sweden? In Swedish? No. They're gonna have the same amount of Swedish songs that will send something in English. It's so predictable. It's unfortunate. Sweden never ever sends the song that I root for. So I've gotten come to a conclusion. So I've been like so deflated and defeated about it. While the national finals at least occasionally pick my favorites. But yeah, so no, I highly doubt that it's going to happen in my book. But yeah. So especially rock in German would fit. Blood and glitter in German maybe would have done better. I don't know if it would have done different in German, to be honest, Crystal. I really think it just didn't click, and maybe it just wasn't meant to be. And that's the problem with the Big Five. They don't have to prove themselves in the semis, and they don't have that advantage of being listened to and being in the competition. They don't have that head start. They get the head start of being in the finals, but that's why they keep flopping, and it'll continue that way. And I don't blame them for not wanting to go for the semis because, money. And, I think it's more like as long as we're in the finals, even if we don't succeed, it's still money. People keep watching it. So, it's not what I meant. I meant with Swedish songwriters. Oh, that countries would have MILF, MLF style songs. I hope not. I hope not. And that's my fear, though, if I understand your question correctly, that that countries will now start catering towards the jury taste to not get too penalized by them and see a repeat of 2023, which is why I keep saying let's have not just music expert on the juries, figure something out. Listen to me, all. I know what I'm doing. I know, and I just like to say that. Are artists allowed to enter Melody Festival in 3 years in a row? Really want Theos to make it to the final? Yes, I don't believe there is a rule that states that you cannot. If I'm not mistaken, Clara Hammerström or Klingenström, I always forget her name. She was definitely 3 years in a row. So there is no reason why you can't. It's just they may not let you in. Theos could be back. He may sit out a year and come back in a year or two. But yeah, there is no rule that says you cannot. I mean, that could change every year. Is there any Swedish interval acts you want to see next year? Well, obviously Rain will be an interval act, right? ABBA already ruled out any involvement, which I don't blame them. Um, I mean, I'm a traditionalist when it comes to Eurovision. I don't mind having former artists actually take the stage. This is their moment. This is their show. I love that. Um, I'm sure there are some Swedish. Okay, here comes my lack of knowledge on what's popular in Sweden right now. What are current Swedish acts that are internationally known outside the Eurovision bubble that are current? Not just like 10 years ago. Help me out real quick here. Because in the US we don't get as many. Um, Zara Larson. Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. I don't even know how well. But 2016 was one of the strongest Eurovision years ever, and some of the songs were definitely Swedish contemporary, but most of them actually were executed well. Yeah, no, that was a good year. I do like though the current era better, only because of some of the less Swedish involved songs. And there's nothing against Sweden. You know what I mean? I just learned that San Marino has made up Televote. How is that fair? 58 points every year are given from a system, not actually people. How is it not a problem? Because no one addresses it. Everyone knows about it, but no one really talks about it because San Marino does not have a televote. There's just not enough people in the country. So what they do is usually they just look at the pot that San Marino is in and then averages that out. So yes, that could have in some cases a make or break kind of outcome. It is stupid. And the question is though, what is the alternative? You know what I mean? So it is not easy to really come up with a proper solution. So forgive me, I'm just okay, that was the San Marino question here already. Kaya Intervalact, that would be, I think, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. How do you say yes in Finnish? So yes in Finnish. I think they will actually because it became such a big deal. And Lorraine and Kaya, they really liked each other and supported each other. I think it would be a very nice gesture. They did the same with Eleni in 2019, right, in Israel. I think it's just a very nice thing to do, and I'm all in favor of that. Heck, bring the top three in. Um, do you think Big Five countries should perform live during the semis rather than short snippets? The public can then see it more early on. So in the jury shows, we get to see them perform in full, right? What they need to do, in my opinion, is to give them a little bit that, not that, I mean, it's an unfair thing that they're already in the finals, but it's also unfair to them that they don't have that certain exposure in the semis. They need to play the whole songs right after the semifinalists have performed. Make that the interval act. Do you know what I mean? Start the recap so people can start voting and then play the top three, the big five, the three countries that are in that particular group. Have them play there the whole 3 minutes, not at the very end of the show where they show the short snippets. They need to have the whole three songs. And I think that would help out a little because people are still engaged. They're still voting. So they're still part of the show. They're still waiting for the results, but they get to listen to the music. I think that would be the best option in my book. San Marino proposed a demoscopic jury of 100 people of all age groups, and the EBU rejected without giving a reason. That's what EBU is. Not, it's probably the least transparent organization I've ever worked with, which is ironic because they're the European Broadcasting, Union. It's all about press, but yeah, they are very, very hush hush about almost everything, and this does not come as a surprise to me. But just because it was denied or rejected once doesn't mean it can't come up again. San Marino is a small delegation and broadcaster. They don't have a whole lot of sway. Once you get bigger delegations kind of echoing that sort of sentiment, then maybe we can talk about it. So we'll see. We'll see. host countries that have a Eurovision history is always more interesting to me. For example, Israel 2019 had more ESC references than Portugal 2018. Yes, I do think that you can find a nice balance. You still want to celebrate and value the acts that came before at Eurovision and the history, and still highlight your culture and music at the contest as well. Just on bringing in Madonna or Justin Timberlake, the UK had actually a great opportunity to bring a bigger name in. Adele would have been great, but money, money, money. Must be funny. So yeah, we'll see. I hope that Sweden will not bring another random act next year. How common is that the last year's second place gets invited to the following contest? I know Eleni was, but there are others. Well, this year, it's a different story, right? 21, it's not common, I would say. But it's maybe just a more recent trend, and I would like to see it a little bit more. Especially, they have that friendly rivalry in Sweden and Finland. That would be a nice thing to do if Karja wants to, of course. But yeah, we'll see. But I would like that just to celebrate the second place as well. But I understand, there are so many things happening, and there's only so much you can give to the act. They brought Rita Ora. Was it that big of a name, though? I don't know. The name was that big, and it was in a semi. It wasn't even the finals. If she was that big of a name, she would have been in the finals, not in the semis. Do you think Mans will be there in Sweden again next year? Yes. Yes. I'm pretty sure he will be in some capacity there. In what capacity? That is the question. Will he host again? I don't know. I don't think so. I think they're going to go with something else, but he will pop up somewhere somehow. And honestly, this is the year where I wouldn't even mind it because it is in Sweden. But yeah, I expect him to be there somehow. And people get really upset, annoyed that he's in every Eurovision. I mean, I personally actually have a slightly different outlook. It doesn't have to be there every year. I agree with that, but I appreciate when artists stay close to the contest and show the appreciation for it. I understand that I don't always have to be in every contest, but I do like that he has that affinity with the contest. And we should actually more celebrate than reject him for it. At the same time, I also agree that, it's a little much at times. And just because maybe you don't like the act, you can still value and respect his involvement in the contest, because we get annoyed, like when these acts completely dismiss Eurovision now. Like what Salvador Sobral did in the past, although he backtracked on that, or even Måneskin. It's just I like the ones that actually do have some sort of connection to the contest, even if it's not on a yearly basis. Most importantly, I'm excited for the 24 flag parade. We know Sweden absolutely smashes it. Yeah. I mean, I think the BBC set a pretty high bar with the broadcast, but it's maybe good that another very effective and competent broadcaster is following the BBC rather than someone who hasn't done this. So it's not going to be as of a jarring difference. So yeah, that is certainly my thing. So people give a lot of names in the chat on who should host it. Sanna Nielsen, Sarah Dawn Finer. I only know the hosts that hosted Melodifestivalen, so I'm not like the biggest experts on non-Melfest folks. I know a lot of people talk about Oscar Zia and that one woman that I keep forgetting her name that has been hosting Melodifestivalen a few times. But yeah, I just want someone besides Petra, and much loved her. I loved her to pizzas. I know she doesn't work for SVT anymore anyway, so it's highly unlikely. But I want to see some less not established, but something different. We don't want to do rinse and repeat from Farah Abadi. Thank you so much. That was her name. Yes, Linda Woodruff. No, I wouldn't mind. I know some people may think that joke is run to the ground with Laura. No, I'm not ready to let her go. I would love to have Linda Woodruff back in some capacity. Wouldn't that be fun? Now, again, we don't need to have her a whole thing, but if it's just one thing or so, just like Verka Seduchka, it's fun to have her back every once in a while. Do you root for artists from 2020 that didn't come back to come back? I've been always rooting for them, even in 21. I don't know. I mean, there are a bunch of them missing. So I mean, at least half of them returned, and some of them actually returned this year at least. Um, I'm trying to think who. I mean, we know that had we Ulrike from Norway, she tried this year, didn't work. It would be nice to have her in at some point. From Finland, what's his name? Not Oscar. Oh gosh, his name is just escaping me. From 2020, he tried again. It didn't work the following year. Um, Tom from France, I don't think he'll return. Little Big, of course, will not return. So there are a bunch of. I would love for them to come back, but Axel, thank you. So yes, there are a bunch of them. I would love for them to return, but I just don't think that they will get like a free pass. The Mamas would be nice if they were given another chance, but I think they broke up, right? Because we had one of them already perform as a solo artist this year, so I think that's history as well. Plus, just sending the artist now, they need to have the song. And if they don't have the song, yes, they're going to be in there, but then they're going to flop. And I don't think they want that either. So have them come up with a good song. With all the backlash, how do you think it'll take Sweden to win again? I honestly don't think that this will impact the normie viewer at much. They'll just keep voting for their favorite song. I think Sweden will be just as relevant as they were this year or in previous years. The only thing that could happen is if the EBU were to change or get rid of the juries completely, then Sweden would have to change their approach a tad. At the same time, not that much, because even though they haven't won the Televote in over 10 years, like even Lorraine in 2012 barely won the Televote with Euphoria, which is kind of like a crime if you think about it. They would have to potentially rethink their approach and how they could win the contest if it was only top Televote, because they are very jury friendly right now. But let's be real, they've been doing quite well with the Televote as well, just not quite as well. Big difference there. I feel so bad for Athena Manukian. I hope she gets her shot, but I don't think it's going to happen anymore. So I don't know her well. She was from Armenia in 2020, right? That song was probably my least favorite that year. So I think if she wants to come back, she used to come back with another song, because that song just drove me up the wall. Oh, this is going to go down a change. Yeah, no. So I'm sure she's a lovely person and a great singer, but that song, no, wasn't for me. Germany could have done so well in 2020 with Ben Dolik. I love that song. A lot of people like that one. I was more worried about his live vocals. He's not a great live singer. And I was worried that he's going to pull more of a May Muller. So I was not as convinced that he was guaranteed a good result. A lot of people like the song, but I just don't think he was strong enough as a live performer to carry the song. And that would have been my concern. But I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. This was a very popular song, man. That was a year. We'll never get that back. I don't think Sweden will win for like 2 decades, but we will send quirky songs for a bit now. Theodore, I don't think Sweden will change its path in terms of Melody Festival and how to select songs. It's been going on like this for years, and even with change in leadership, they're kind of stuck to it, and it's working. Sweden doesn't want to win every year anyways, but if they can bring home top 10 results almost every single year, why change it? So I don't think they're going for quirky, because they have, even if the televoters are, they would have to change the jury in Melody Festivalen, who have very clear guidelines on what to vote for, and they will not allow a quirky songs like that to go through to Eurovision. Your advice for the UK, that I just clicked on and it disappeared. There you go. Your advice for the UK, Laurie's asking. My advice for the UK is a very lame one. Keep trying. Again, you did so well last year. You unfortunately did not do well this year, but you still had a song that was immensely popular with the fans pre-contest, and it does really, really well in the charts. So you didn't screw up completely. I think the problem was ultimately the vocals and the feel of the song did not translate well onto the Eurovision stage. And that is what it is. So just keep trying, do something. I personally still think that the UK should go back to a national final. I know people saying, well, we don't know how to select good songs. I'm like, yeah, but your national final sucks and you didn't have good songs to choose from. So maybe now that you know what works a little bit, maybe this would be the time to get more songs like Spaceman or I Wrote a Song in the national final, and then people can tell already whether or not a song will work live. Get the people involved. I've always been of that opinion. So that's my thought, at least. What will happen with Denmark? Because they have to change something, right? So Fresh, I mentioned that earlier. You probably weren't on yet. They will not change. The head of the MGP already came out and said, it's not us. We did everything right. We just, the wrong countries were in our semi. I'm paraphrasing, of course. That wouldn't like this kind of music. If we had a different setup, we would have qualified. And I'm like, so you're just saying you can only appeal to certain countries, meaning your friends. So they don't think there's anything wrong with GMGP, even after 3 years of non-qualification. So I am just based on input, very pessimistic about them changing anything. They may get lucky and get a good song in next year, like what happened in 2018. But I'm worried about Denmark. I am worried about Denmark quite a bit, in my opinion. What do you think about the chances of the Faroe Island joining ESC in 24? The broadcaster said that they are ready to join, but I thought only independent countries are allowed. That's the thing. They're not an independent country, therefore they cannot take part separately. Then they all would have to perform separately, in Eurovision. So I don't think that's going to happen. That's just a pipe dream right now. So don't hold your breath on that one. Don't hold your breath. Let's see here. What do you think about the chances? Oh no, that's the one I had. My system is kind of slow again. Again, I will change my software after this Eurovision. I have to do a lot of upgrades, actually. So I'm just going to read the comments instead of putting them on screen. It was revealed that the other choices for France this year was Slimane and Anne Sila, two of the most talented French singers. Again, have a national final, but I think some of the names don't want to, they're too good for a national final, so they don't want to do it. I'm like, then get out. Shush. Clearly, you had your best result in years France with the national final. So don't give up on that. And you took a chance in 22. It didn't pay off, but you're still my favorite song that year. So let's not, don't feel discouraged. Go back to the national final. And if people think they're too cool for school for national final, then get out. We don't need you. Do you think New Zealand is likely to join? No. They cannot. No, it's highly unlikely. They're not even showing Eurovision, really. They're not even that involved. It would be a huge surprise. I think it's more likely for Kazakhstan to join first before New Zealand. So I don't see that happening at all. In your opinion, which country you think could be the next new winner? Czechia, Malta, Poland, Armenia? So honestly, it could happen to anyone. You could have that random country that does super well out of nowhere. Kind of what happened with Portugal in 2017. Kind of what happened with Finland in 2006. Sucky, win. So that could happen. So any of them could win. If you talk about consistency, and that is what I take into consideration, you can make a case for Czechia slowly working their way up there. Obviously, Australia comes to mind. They have been doing really, really well. And so those two stood out the most to me. Now, Poland and Armenia, Malta, they haven't had as much of a consistent approach. Now, Poland qualified for 2 years in a row, still no top 10. Armenia had some hit or misses, also 2 qualifications, but no top 10. Malta hasn't seen the top 10. Well, actually in 21, to be fair. But, it was also inconsistent. So I'm looking at consistency. And Iceland has not been consistent, even though they had some good results. So Czech Republic, even though, some up and down as well, but they had a couple of top 10s and mostly qualifications except in 21. which was a weird year because, the guy could just pick his own song and there was little control. So I see them being more consistent. And Australia, of course, comes to mind there as well. But anyone could just come in and, do really well. I could see Lithuania. They've been doing fairly well, but always just mid-table kind of thing, right? But they have been sending quite a lot of good songs. Ultimately, whoever sends the best song will win. You can never trust the UK public to choose our song. Remember, 2007, Scooch instead of Cindy. That wouldn't change these days. But we don't know that, Lee. How do you know? How do you know that? Keep in mind, also, you could have a jury and a televote as well in the British national final. If you had a jury and a televote, Cindy would have won. So just think about that. And I don't think we can look at a contest from 16 years ago when there's a new generation. The contest has evolved. I'm sure the people in the UK, they have evolved. So we need more of that. The problem is more about sending good music. But yeah, I do think that we cannot just dismiss the public vote because Scooch happened, in my opinion. Early prediction for staging trends for next year. Like the silver dress in 21 laying on the floor this year. I don't know, I mean, it really comes down to what they're going to do in Sweden. In 2013, you may recall, Malmö, no LEDs. If we're going to have no LEDs, it'll be the year of extra props. Although we had so many props this year with LEDs. So I don't see that going away anytime soon. So I think it'll just be another year of very innovative and creative staging. I don't know how much more you can do because I feel like, have we reached what else can you do on stage that we haven't seen before? I mean, I guess there are without going too overboard. But yeah, I think there will be more people trying to be visually even more appealing, especially after having Lorraine with that visual feast. But then again, a lot of countries cannot afford it. If you look at the top right now, they all had really good stagings. Sweden, Finland, look at all the crates. Look at Israel, that thing in the back, and it was great in Italy with the trampoline. So I expect a lot of that actually to happen. What can Netherlands do to change things up? So they need to go back. So this is what happens a lot at Eurovision. And what the Netherlands, I mean, it could be a one-off, right? Every country is allowed to have a one-off year. But it could be really a thing of it getting stale. What the Netherlands did for 10 years kind of worked with their panel, but maybe it is slowly getting a little stale. They just chose a song because it was Duncan Lawrence and he picked two random singers who were not well suited for the song and it didn't come together well. And that is, I think they need to get away from this panel thinking, well, we figured out for so many years, we're just going to keep doing it. That's going to fall flat. Look at Belgium. Belgium went back to a national final after all these years, and guess what? They got the 7th place. People are saying because the Netherlands has been doing so well for years with an internal selection, they should stick with it. You need to evolve. You need to change. And you need to try something different. Maybe this is the time to reconsider a national final. People are always so scared. Well, we've done so well with the internal. I'm like, yeah, but wouldn't it be fun to have the people involved and just saying because it didn't work in the past, you can never do it again? That's just kind of how I feel about it. But I think the Netherlands need to switch it up, either with a very different internal selection process or maybe go back to a national final. So, yeah. I think we are not focusing enough on very few countries that never won managed to reach top 10. I think we are not focusing enough on how very few countries that never won managed to reach top 10, even less in top 5. Yeah. When you're saying we, are you from the Netherlands? Then I agree. Yes. Well, with the Netherlands is also, they're going so depressing right now. I don't feel joy in life anymore. And then, every song is just so depressing. And I do think we are currently in an era at Eurovision where people gravitate towards uplifting music. And I think the Netherlands should consider being more happy and upbeat as well. That's another thing you can throw at them. And that could change again. But right now, with everything that's going on in the world, people gravitate towards more fun music. So, how much more depressing music do we need? Belgium wants to do a Eurosong again in 25, but in 24 probably do a national final in the RTBF. I keep forgetting they keep switching. They choose always the winner of The Voice. Ugh, that's annoying. I don't like The Voice when I hate The Voice because also you just really limit. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but for the most part, The Voice winners tend to be very young. You're not going to get like a Gustav for that. So that is just always unfortunate. So I don't like the idea, but yeah, I keep forgetting that they broadcasters take turns. So we'll see how that's going to pan out. But maybe they saw what happened this year that they could repeat that. I don't know. Thoughts on a country going on average 11 to 12 with the televote, but getting the same amount of points as a country. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. My friend, underscore, underscore, about that before. I threw out that very controversial opinion. Maybe it's time to change the voting structure at Eurovision. Say goodbye to 12, 10, 8 points, and maybe come up with a way to give at least half of the country's points. Maybe first place gets 20 points and then 18 and then 15. I'm just making numbers up on the go. So I'm not saying that's what you need to use. But maybe do that because there's so many songs that just don't always squeeze in. And it seems like, especially with the televoters who always coalesce around the same songs, they need a little bit more of a variety there in points. So yeah. Uh-oh. Are you excited to see Petra hosting again? I'm super excited. She's the best. Taylor, you maybe want to reel in your excitement a little bit. Sorry to be the Debbie Downer, but it is unlikely that Petra will host again. She's no longer with the broadcaster. So it is very difficult to be hosting it. Have to make exception, all of that stuff. So, and there were other things, just some health stuff as well that probably will prevent her from hosting. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not as likely as you may think it is. So sorry. I'm so sorry. Which ESC 23 song do you think will be the most influential on the next year's entries? Like Chanel influenced a lot of songs this year. Oh, Lorraine, absolutely. I'm hoping that Cha 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 will have a little bit impact, but Lorraine, I think, unless we change the jury system, more countries, and by countries I mean broadcasters, the televoters in national finals, not so much, but will keep the juries in mind and how much impact and influence they have on the results, and they can completely overrule the televoters. So I think people will go back to a little bit like, we need to make sure the juries are with us to a certain extent, or at least stay competitive. So that is my thinking. But that's not what I want. That's not what I want. What's SF allocation should Luxembourg be put in with NL and Belgium or Portugal, since 30% of the population is Portuguese? Is it really that high now? Well, it'll definitely be Netherlands and Belgium, the Benelux country. And then they will look at the voting patterns over the next years, but they don't have to be mutually exclusive. They could be all in the same group, because Portugal could fall in. They could put Portugal, and who else is down there? If Andorra comes in, they could put Andorra in there as well. So they could all potentially end up in the same pot anyways. But yeah, I think they would definitely put it more geographically than more where the people are. It's just kind of how it works for the most part anyways. And I think that's what they would do. Matt, do you know what happened? This is the one I wanted to bring up. Matt, do you know what the last deadline is for a country to register its intention to participate? Not yet. That deadline has to be set, but it's usually a little later in the year. I think it's like November-ish. So at that point is when people have to voice their intent, I think. Oh, wait. That's a final deadline. Gosh, I'm trying to remember right now. So around that time, though, like shortly before that, so there needs to be that intent, and then they can still withdraw after that intent as well. So there are multiple deadlines that have not been decided yet. So keep that in mind. Gosh, you guys have so many good questions, and I wish I could answer them all. And forgive me if I don't get to all of them. Do you like how Khan basically forced Noah to participate? I mean, it worked. I know, right? Well, I think it's a little bit more complicated. I think it was really her team that kind of said, "Oh, producer, like we want her. She's cool." But she was never really truly asked. So I think Khan just assumed that's what's going to happen. And then she kind of said, "Well, I don't know." But in the end, it worked. It is true. She went and she got third place. But I don't think it's going to happen all the time. No, it was just a one-off thing. And I think it was a little bit more complicated than just I'm saying, let's just put her name in and then she'll have to do it. um, Did you like how Khan basically forced? Oh no, we got that one. Which city will host in 24? We don't know yet, Holstein. That is I think people believe Stockholm is the obvious choice, but I could see Sweden out of all countries, SVT giving it to a smaller place. Because they don't necessarily want to have the biggest Eurovision arena out there for to host, because it brings other issues with it that they may not want to have to deal with. You know, there are lots of things that could actually happen. So yeah. Okay, let me see here. Luxembourg will win next year with a Portuguese song performed by a Portuguese artist or band or Portuguese descent. Well, I think that the broadcaster will pick something internally and then we'll go from there. I don't know if they're going to go with that. I feel as the broadcaster will probably stick more to something Luxembourgish. I don't know. But I'm guessing Luxembourg is such a big question mark because it's been 30 years. 30 years. That is just crazy. So I'm super excited about the unexpected nature of that. So, this was such a great conversation. I wish I could answer more, but I have to go, y'all. But since there's such a high demand here of doing more conversations, I'll make sure that we're going to have live streams all throughout there, and of course the videos that I'll be posting, because there's plenty to go through with my team. Just today was a little bit almost like last minute, because just got back yesterday or late the night before, so I didn't have much time to plan. But I wish you all a very good night, and I'll be back soon with the next live stream. Until then, good night.